Okay guys, and let's start with the unboxing of the R9 base. And it's heavy. All I can say, it's a very heavy base. I mean, once you hold the package itself, it's like it feels like it's really heavy. I think it's 4.5 kilos or around 10 pounds, if I'm correct. I hope my conversion is okay. But you get the power supply, you get a couple of thingies here, like a couple of stickers, but the base itself, it's kind of a fanatic way. I mean, you get the very nice packaging, and just looking at the base, it looks like a quality one. I mean, you cannot not say that this thing looks cheap. Trust me, it doesn't look cheap, and this is pretty much all you get. But I wanted to spend most of my time unpackaging the pedals, because the pedals are the heart of the product. I mean, okay, the base and the wheel, but pretty much every sim racer, if you ever talk to someone, they will say the pedals, they mean a lot. They just make your driving a lot better or a lot worse. So I just wanted to spend a little bit more time unboxing the pedals and just giving my impression of the pedals. So the pedals, pretty much the unboxing is kind of the same. You get this very nice manual and also a couple of stickers, but just the packaging itself, as I said before, gives you an idea that this package is, and also this product is, very high quality one. I mean, you cannot really expect that you're gonna pay I think it's 1,500 that you usually need to spend to get this bundle, and expect something cheap out of that. So I know a lot of you guys, and you know, I think someone even in the comments said like, this is cheap, it's cheaper than Fanatic. Yeah, kinda. Yeah, if you don't pay your taxes, but yeah, you gotta pay your taxes and you gotta pay your shipping, which I'm gonna be talking about later in this video. But the quality of the products is very high, so I cannot say you're gonna get disappointed when you're just unpackaging all of that stuff and you say, okay, maybe it wasn't really worth the money. No, I mean, you get the idea. This is an expensive product, and just the quality of the build. And can you hear that? Yeah, this is just absolute metal. So there is nothing, I think not even one part is plastic, except from maybe cables and a couple of other additions. But most of this product is very high build, and just the idea that you get out of the box is quite positive. Don't worry, I'm gonna be talking about the cons later in this video. But as we're unpackaging the clutch, which is of course sold separately, and I got the idea that I didn't even need the clutch pedal, so I barely ever use a clutch pedal, maybe in some occasions, but most of the time I'm just using my throttle pedal and my braking pedal. So I'm mostly concerned about the brake pedal. So the brake pedal is, as I said before, it's really the heart of your pedal setup. Okay, you can kind of work with the throttle, you can work it in a way, I mean, it can feel both ways. I mean, it can be good, it can be bad, but it's the throttle is the throttle. I mean, it's always kind of the same. But as you approach the pedal set that it's this expensive, you expect that the pedals and the brake pedal to be quite good. So the clutch, as I said before, only has one spring, and it gives you a good impression that it's kind of an add-on. You won't be, if you're not going to be using it for quite a lot, I would think that you don't really need it. I mean, if you're doing drifting or you're just shifting gears quite a lot, then I would go with that. But also, if you can see these pedals, you can really adjust it to your own personal preference. So pretty much you can go have more throw, have less throw, and of course you can see the ports here. So it just clearly indicates where you should put the clutch, where you should put the USB cable, and all of the other cables. Okay, now we just gotta go to the assembly. Okay, I was kind of wondering how do I want to set up my pedals, but I think it was pretty simple and fast forward. I mean, yeah, if you're buying this product, make sure that you get the accessory kit. It's one of the most important things to buy. So the accessory kit is a must. Trust me, this is a must. Just the pedals, and as I was testing it, as I was driving it, it really felt kind of, it didn't give me that quite a good feeling when it comes to the brakes. But just with the accessory kit, I don't know, but for 15, like literally for 15 euros or $15, if you pay your taxes, it can go up to 20, but for about $20, you get a much better product. I mean, this, I think in my opinion, all of this stuff should be included into the product and the brakes, but just, you know, it's just what it is. I mean, $20 more, I think, yeah, I mean, I'm not thinking, I'm saying you, get the accessory kit, it's really worth the money. But as we're looking to this fully assembled pedal set, we just gotta go to the wheel. So the wheel out of the box, again, very, very good packaging, very good presentation of the product, and I always have that feeling that I'm unpacking Fanatec's products. I mean, it's just incredibly similar to the experience that I had with Fanatec's products. But the wheel itself is, again, heavy. You can really feel the metal, you can really feel the grips, but I don't know if you could hear that, but those were the shifters. So I think with the wheel, that's the only downside of this whole thing. Yeah, this is it. So they are pretty loud. Not saying this is bad or good, but they are loud, so you should consider that. And you really get that clicky feeling. I mean, the feeling is good, but I think they should work on reducing the noise of the product itself. But if you ask me for the opinion about this wheel, I would say that it's quite positive straight out of the box, but I'm gonna be talking about that later on in this video. As we jump to the software part of this video, which is called Moza Pit House. So I think it's a pretty cool name, but just the adjustment is something else. So I think this is something that Fanatec is missing at this point. So you can really adjust the throttle minimum or maximum. Okay, I know, that's pretty standard. But what is not standard is just adjusting pretty much anything else on this thing. So the CS steering wheel, which you can see on the screen, you have a preset that goes from 360 degrees all the way up to 900, so you can easily change your rotation. But when it comes to the other settings of this wheel, I had a tough time making this work. So actually, I had no experience with the product, but I just decided to set it up to my own personal preference and played it with it. I think I played with it for like 3 hours. But again, I kind of adjusted it in my own way. So, I mean, yeah, I don't think it's going to be good for everyone, but just make sure that you don't go with all of the force. So trust me, 9 Newton meters is quite a lot of force. So, I mean, if you want to play it at 100, yeah, you could. You could play with 9 Newton meters of torque, but I think around 5 or 6 is probably enough for longer races. And if you're going through the wheel, you can actually say you can set it pretty much to your own personal preferences. So if you really want to change the rev meter when it reaches 75 or 79 or 80%, you can really do that. So you can really go play out with the colors. It can be done. I'm not sure, I mean, if it's useful or not, but it's kind of fun to see and, you know, fun to play with. But this is something that I was super excited about. So I was kind of playing with the clutch brake and the throttle, and you can really see that you can kind of modify the curvature, and you got a couple of these presets, which is usually it's linear. Linear is something that I use, but in some games, and especially as I was playing, let's say Assetto Corsa, you can really adjust it to your own personal preference. So if you played another sim, if that sim has kind of a different mod, you can kind of adjust it here, so it's always the same. So you don't have to change the feeling of the brakes, you don't have to kind of change the approach for a specific game, for a specific sim. You can just go ahead, make your own presets, and just import it once you're playing a different game. So if you're playing, let's say F1, and you're jumping into Assetto Corsa, you can do that. You can really adjust it. And I mean, if you like a different curvature on the throttle pedal on F1 because it's quite slippery, I mean, you can adjust it in a different way once you're jumping back to Assetto Corsa. So it's quite a lot of things that you can work, and you can see I'm just playing with this thing. I mean, it did take a lot of my time. It's just I was going with the clutch, brake, and throttle, and trust me, it will make your life a lot easier. Just as well as this quick release system. This is maybe one of the best I've seen on the market. Honestly, it just goes up in seconds. I mean, not really seconds. So basically in half a second, and you don't really have to think about a lot of things once you're doing that. So you just click it in and it just goes. But let's jump into the driving experience of this video. So I'm just gonna be talking about the total driving experience that I had on Assetto Corsa Competizione. So this is something that I was really worried that it's not gonna work, but it kind of did. So I was, you know, when you're going over the curbs, you can really have a good feeling of the actual curb, or if the car is gonna slip in, let's say, first gear, you're just coming out of the corner and you wanna feel like it has grip or it doesn't have that grip, but it just gives you that better feeling once you're kind of going out of the certain turn, and if it's gonna slide or if it's not gonna slide. Even if you miss the turn, you can have a good feeling how to recover a car. And eventually, it's just gonna make your life a lot easier when you're going in, let's say, longer races, or eventually you're just having some fun. But as I was driving this thing, I mean, I'm not gonna be only talking about the positive things. So yeah, the shifters are quite loud, and I had a feeling that was kind of a little bit of damping on my wheel. I tried adjusting the settings, but I don't think I really hit the sweet spot that I had on the wheel. Maybe it's just me, maybe I'm just used to the wheel that I'm using right now, but just the total quality of the wheel and everything else that I had, it's pretty good. You know, the brakes eventually, you know, as you're going in tight corners like that, where you need to adjust your pedals and you need to adjust pretty much anything to make it, you know, to make it drivable and to make it, you know, eventually for you to go faster. But it had, you know, it actually had that good experience. It had that kind of a good feeling after a while. Just getting to the apex, trail braking was pretty good. I mean, you know, after quite a while, I mean, I think it was after a couple of hours of driving this thing, you know, you really get that feeling. But just as I was playing with the settings, okay, first I had, you know, the maximum settings, I had the maximum torque. That was, you know, that was a killer, honestly. I tried playing with that, but it's almost impossible to hold it out there for a couple of hours. I mean, honestly, if you're driving with 9 Newton meters of torque, you're a complete beast. And trust me, you want to reduce it to about 50. I think about the 70% that I was using was more than enough. Okay, for a hot lap, yeah, maybe I would use like 70-90%. But just if I'm going in the longer races, I would drop it down to like 50-60%, maybe up to 70. So that's just my suggestion. And as I said before, it kind of had a bit of a damping feeling. So I really want to see in the future updates that you will really have kind of a simplified way, you know, just to kind of reduce the damping, or just a kind of a community setups that you can import. But eventually there will be a lot of guys out there, they're going to be sharing their own setups, and once I really test this thing out, you can go down there in the description and you can eventually see my setup. So if you want to see this product, there is also a link down in the description. So I will post all of my stuff down in the description, so it's gonna be easier for you to understand what I did and what I used in this one. But just, you know, the total feeling, and it's pretty positive. It's really, really positive. Okay, and as we need to go through the pros and cons of this video and of the product, of course, I would really need to talk about the quality of the product. So just the overall experience that you get straight out of the box, it's extremely, extremely positive. So trust me, this is a very high quality product. It has 9 Newton meters of torque. I'm really not wondering why it has 1 Newton meter more than Fanatec wheelbase. So yeah, honestly, it does on purpose, but it's kind of a good purpose, I guess. I can also have fully adjustable pedals in here, so fully adjustable pedals adding to the list. So honestly, Moza Pit House, it's just incredible. So you can play with the settings and the curvature and all of that. So I think that's a huge pro when when you're just adjusting your pedals and all this stuff. It just makes it a lot easier for you. But if we need to talk about the cons of the product, I have a feeling that the bass was getting hot after about 30 minutes or more of use. So it wasn't really that hot, but it actually got hot, and it had that kind of a buzzing sound. So honestly, I didn't even notice once I put my headphones on, and I just didn't even know it was there. But if you have your speakers on and you're not using headset or anything like that, I think it's noticeable. So I think it's noticeable once you really get into it, and I think they really need to sort this out. I mean, it's not a deal breaker, honestly. That's not really a deal breaker for me, but it's just something that you notice after a testing, after you just get more into the product, and that's pretty much it when it comes to the bass. But the real downside and the real con of this thing is console compatibility. It's not compatible with PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. I will make a video and I will try to test it out with the adapter, which I haven't really received yet, but I might even just see if it's worth or not. So there is possibly going to be a video of me testing it on the consoles, and I've seen some videos that actually say, okay, it's working pretty good, but I just want to see it myself and actually make a video about that. But the last thing I would put on the list is, yeah, loud shifters. So shifters are pretty loud, and if you're living with someone, if you just, you know, want to make it as quiet as possible, yeah, it is noticeable. But again, as I said, if you're just alone, if you have a room for yourself, if you're just around playing this thing and no one is around you, yeah, why not? I mean, you won't even notice it. And as I said before, I had a feeling of that kind of a buzzing noise and loud shifters, but once I put my headphones on, it was gone. But the clicky feeling stayed. So I think this wheel has, and just the whole bundle has a lot of pros and cons, which I really didn't go that much into detail, but I think I shared most of the important ones with you. So top of that, we got the price, which is quite significant. Of course, $1,000 is not that much for a wheel like that, for the pedals and for the actual base itself. So it's quite a good amount, but we haven't really calculated the shipping. So the shipping to my country or Croatia would be $200 US or euros, and on top of that you would have to pay the taxes. So here the VAT is 25%. So on top of the 1,000 I would have to pay 25% more, which is 1,250. And on top of that, there is a shipping costs, which totals to about $1,500 US or euros, depending on your country. And of course, it depends on your taxes, your customs rate, and all of the other stuff. So it's not gonna be the same price for everyone, and I hope in the future we will have something that eventually is gonna include a lot, you know, a lot less when it comes to the shipping costs and everything else. But I think this is just a part of the distribution, and eventually we might see a reduction in the cost and reduction in the total prices and everything else. So I think even with this, it's quite a competitive price on the market, but again, it's still a huge price. 1,500 euros or dollars. It's not cheap. It's definitely not cheap. So I've seen a lot of you guys in the comments and even on media's forums and everything else I've seen, they say it's cheap. So if you consider all of the costs, it's not that cheap, but it's still okay. It's a decent price for the product. It's definitely decent for something that you would pay, but eventually, it's the price. Yeah, it's quite, yeah, it's a lot. Let's be honest, it's a lot. But again, guys, I think this pretty much sums it up. So if you enjoyed this video, if you got any other questions, any other suggestions, please share them in the comments down in the description or on my Discord channel. So I really hope I brought my opinion, my point of view to you, and I really hope that, you know, I just made my point, and eventually this will become useful to you as you're, you know, if you want to actually buy this product. So once again, guys, until the next video, bye.